All right, and okay, so if we add if we run this one, can you see can you see my code?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just build it once more time and we run it. All right, yeah, so if we run it, you will see that it gives us 64, the value. So now when you have this, you may want maybe to ask a user to enter those values. So you can ask a user to enter a base and an index. So you can say cout, let's just write cout, enter a base, then a user will enter the base. We put a C in there. We can say let's use X and Y. For the base we're gonna use X. So we are assuming that the user will be entering an integer. We're gonna say int X and Y. Then we're gonna also ask a user to enter we'll ask a user also to enter the index or the exponent. Let me just use index. Okay, exponent is still the same. So the user will enter an exponent which is y. So now we can say cout, for example, we can display, we can say cout power of what, X and Y. So the values that a user enters, it will be what, it will give the answer of the power to the power. Maybe if it's 2, it's gonna say 2 to the power 3, the way it was, or if it's 5 to the power 2, which is going to be 25. So now the other thing that we must take into account, you must remember that when we are using the power, we use the what hash include cmax. You must have the hash include cmax, this header file, in order for power to work. So let's just build our code and see if we gonna find, and we see if we're going to get the right values. What is it saying here? It's okay, build message. Okay, it's built successfully. So let's run our code. So when we run our code, yeah, you will see that it's going to ask enter a base. Let's assume the base is 5, and then say extra the exponent, we're going to enter 2. We know that 5 to the power 2 is going to be 25. You can see that the answer is 25. So we have built now, we have coded it in such a way that a user can be able to enter the values that he or she wants. So that's how you can do it. So this, what I'm teaching now, we call them a predefined functions. They are predefined functions. So these are predefined functions. So in these predefined functions, we have many of them. So the other predefined functions, this one I was just showing you as an example of how you can use predefined functions. So we also have some other predefined functions. So the other predefined functions we have, I'm gonna say a get line. We have a get line. So get line, it says get line. So get line, it works with it works when you are working with a strings. So the get line, it will ask you to have cin and also the name of the name you'd use to declare in order to capture your string, and also that. So in this one here is one of the predefined functions. I'm just gonna name them. The other one is called a rend. Rend rand, the rand function, it works with a random, it for random numbers. So normally random numbers, if you check one of my videos in YouTube, there you will see that there is a time whereby I was writing like a code, I was programming based on the rand, whereby I make a code that can generate 6 numbers, like a lottery game, whereby it generates 6 numbers. So I was using also one of these predefined function, which is called rand. And we also have srand. Srand is for, it works with random, but and it works when it works with random, the srand, it can simulate in such a way that you can tell it, okay, this is why from the starting to the end, like that, the values. We have a time function. A time function, it works with, when you're working with random numbers, if you use this rand function, so if you don't have this time function, it won't change. Every time when you run your code, it will keep giving you the same random number that it have used before. So in order for you to be changing with time, you need to use this time. So in order for getLine to work, the header file that you must use hash include strings. When you are working with a string, you must have this header file. And for the random and srand, you must use this header file called hash include not io manip, stdlib. Hash include stdlib, yeah. And then the one, when we are using time, you use hash include times. Time, it's just hash include time. Actually it's c time, c, you write a c time. So some of them, there are too many of them there, but the predefined function, you can just check them, there are many of them. Some of them you will see them when we are using them, like the set w, we have some of to set, there are many. So you don't really have to, you must just, when you are working more with code, with programs, then you will be able to see this some of these predefined functions. So now we're going to move to a function that it does not return a value. A function that does not return a value is called a void function. So when we talk about void function, a void function does not return a value. So when this void function does not return a value, it means that if I write my function, let's just start with writing a function that does not return a value. I'm going to explain everything. Okay, just give me 1 minute. I'm just checking something quickly. I just want to add something, yeah. I'm checking. I want to there's something that I need. Yes, I got it. I just wanted to have a chat here. Okay. All right, so when we talk about the void function, it does not return a value. So if I have to write a void function, okay, I shouldn't have deleted dash include, but it's fine. I'm gonna type it first. Dash include iostream username space std. If you have questions, feel free to ask. And in this one for void, the void is a return type, it's a data type of this function. You write it as void. Then in this void, it depends the name of your function. It must correspond with what the function is going to do. So we are just going to greet here. We are just saying welcome to cos1511. So I can say void welcome. So when I say welcome, I will display cout. I say welcome to cos1511 or cos132. Cos132 is equivalent to the module that is being done at University of Pretoria. So now in this function, what I've just created here, I've just created a function that does not return a value, and in this function we have a name. So this welcome is a name of our function. So let me just write them here down. Void, it's a data type. Void is a data what? It's a data type of this function, and welcome is the name of our function. And the braces, I'm always, or not the braces, these brackets, we call them parentheses. So you will find that we have, there are no parameters in this function of ours inside this parentheses. So now if I have this function, in order for it to run, I will have to call it in the main function. In order for me to call it in the main function, I will have to, in order for me to call it in the main function, I will have to write the int main function. So let's go to the int main function. So in the int main function, I will say int main is the same function that we have been using. It's still a function, it's just that it's a main function. In order for me to call this function, I will have to name. I only use the name of the function that we created, which the name of this function that I have just created is welcome. So I'm just going to call it welcome. Let's write welcome. When I'm writing here, you will see that it shows that is there. We can just say welcome, we put the brace. So after that, because this int main, it returns a value, we're gonna write return 0. So it's returning 0 because of there is nothing inside the parentheses. So when we say void function does not return a value, it means that you must not write this word return. If you write the word return 0, that's when it will tell you that this function, there is something wrong there. The compiler will complain. So now let's just run our code. Some of the things I'm going to explain after running this code. So let me build first, or build the code we are building. So it's telling us hash include. It have a problem there. Let's check hash include. We need E there. We've fixed that. Let's see if we still have some errors. Then we are waiting. Okay, we have no errors at all. So now I'm gonna run my code. So I'm running this code. So you will see that it says welcome to cos1511 or cos15132. So we just, so maybe I can also put /n. /n means end line. So I can call this function many times. I can even decide to call it, for example, I can say cout here. I say end line. I just want to have end line. I say cout end line. Then I can say welcome again. I'm calling it again 2 times. So you will see that it's gonna show us a welcome to cos1511 or 132 2 times. So when we make changes in our code, remember we must also build it again and run it. You don't just have to run it, you must build it and run it. So I just build it. Let's see what will happen. We have no errors. Then we can run our code. So if you see now, welcome to cos1511 again, welcome to cos1511. So we have done it. So you can call f times inside the int main. So the other thing that I want to explain is that when we talk about a function that does not return a value, it does not necessarily mean that if this function we have to add, for example, I have to say x. Let's say I have to say 4 plus 2, 4 plus 7, or you can use division or subtraction, is up to you. So it does not mean that if I have to run this function still is going to tell me that 4 plus 5 is 9. So it does not mean that, like, the only thing that it means that it must not have that return. That's all. So when you put return in a void function, it makes it wrong. So let me just build it again. And run it. So you will see when we build and run. So we are building and run. Okay, it says cout return. Okay, it's not showing anything because here I didn't call it. Let me call welcome again so that we can see. So it doesn't show us anything. We didn't call that function. Okay, let me run it. So you will see that it shows us the value of 9. So it means now that you can understand about the void function. So the only thing that you must take into account is that this void function, you don't put return there. You don't put return here. So that's all with the void function. So let's go to when we are working with a function which returns a value. So the function that returns a value, it's a function whereby it can be starting with int, it can start with float, double, bool. Those functions, they return a value. So we might want to write a function which return x plus y. For example, I will say int, I'm starting with an integer function. I can say int calcu. So in my int calcu here, I can declare, say I have int x, I also have int y. So many students normally, when they start with functions and when they see what I'm doing now, they nearly get some majority of the students, they get confused about this. So now we have int calcu in our parentheses, or we have parameters here. So in these two, x and y, we can tell this function that, okay, we want you to return x, return, you see, this is what you must take into account. Return, let's say x multiplied by, I'm just gonna use multiply by y now. Then when we have this function which is returning x multiplied by y, we can come to our int main. In int main, you can still use any different value. You can even use a and b. It's int a and b. Then maybe those values you want to ask a user to enter them. You can ask a user to enter two numbers. Then when you enter those two numbers, it can be a and b. Then we're gonna call. So when we call this function, remember our function, it does not have a cout here inside. It didn't say cout return. So we can call it, we can say cout, then we say calcu. So because our function calcu, it have two parameters. The first one we're going to put is a, the other one is going to be for b. Then we have called exactly the same way now what I did is called a function call. This is a function call, just that we want it to display in the screen. That's why I used cout. So let's build our code and see what will happen. Let's wait to check if we have errors. We don't have errors. We have no errors. Then we can run our code. So when we run our code, it will ask us to enter two numbers. In these two numbers, we'll enter simple number 2 and 4. So we know that multiplication of 2 times 4 is going to give us 8. So you will see the results that it's 8. So do you have any question based on, you can check this code, how we did it now, and then you ask where you want to ask, then I will answer you. Any question?
Network.
Network. Oh, okay. But do you see what I was doing?
And consumer.
Okay. All right, so this is how you write predefined functions. That's how we do them. So maybe you can check properly, or you can try. So you can try, I will say, because it's an introduction today for this chapter, then you can try to go through it a little bit and see what's going on. Then we're gonna do more questions. So I was just giving you an introduction. So we're just starting. We haven't started. We have just started, but we are still going to go deeper with